UFC Fight Night Atlanta, Usman versus Buckley is this upcoming weekend. I'm going to be giving my entire predictions and breakdown for the entirety of the card. Now, I'm going to warn you, my fucking computer is terrible and is going to be giving you terrible quality in terms of the video today. So I apologize in advance. I think you should just listen to this. It's going to be a short video, so no big deal. My girlfriend was here this week, so that's why I haven't been recording. Haven't had a very busy week. Haven't had a lot of time. And, there really hasn't been much to talk about. I do have one take. I think Aspinall's fighting Pereira for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. But we're going to ignore that because we're going to talk about a sick Atlanta card that we have today. Great fights from the very early prelim all the way to the main event. And I'm going to go through them very quickly, let you guys know what I think, and I'll be pretty right about my predictions, I feel pretty confident on this card. Maybe that's when I'll be at my worst, right? Moving on. Let's go ahead to the first prelim of the night, Jamie Lynn Horth versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa Demopoulos is terrible. Jamie Lynn Horth won some fights recently. I believe she lost her last fight to Miranda Maverick. Much better, much higher level than Alencar, which is Demopoulos' last opponent. So I believe in Jamie Lynn Horth to get the win here. Should be fairly easy. And she has a big size advantage over Vanessa Demopoulos. So, yeah, this should be an easy win for Jamie Lynn Horth by decision. Clinch, cage control, all that fun stuff. Moving on, Phil Rowe versus Ange Loosa. I don't really like Ange Loosa after what he did to Brian Battle, and just like he was scared and he had to get out of that fight. And, yeah, there was a lot of issues with what I thought about his performance against Brian Battle. And then he lost to Gabriel Bonfim. I really don't think he is that good. And Phil Rowe is giving tough competition to guys like Neil Magny. And he's given, he had a close fight with Jake Matthews. He's right around at that level. But I do think Ange Loosa might be a bad stylistic matchup for him. The shorter, stockier, stronger guy. I could see, and he's more active than Phil Rowe is on the feet, and he's not going to be one of those opponents that's going to be tentative. He will let go of his punches, and I think Ange Loosa will do that against Phil Rowe, and I could actually see him knocking Phil Rowe out. But I will just say Ange Loosa by decision. I think he's going to get this one done, just purely because it's a bad style matchup for Phil Rowe. Moving on. I am going to get off of seeing my camera for myself because it is making me so angry just seeing the quality that it is giving you through my OBS. So I truly apologize because this is fucking sad, and I've had a terrible day. The Pacers choked away their game last night, and they got fucked by the refs. But whatever, right? It's 2-2 in that series. I'm too stressed to think about UFC, but it's still a great card either way. All right, we got to move on. I'm getting off track. Ricky Simone versus Cameron Smotherman. Now, Cameron Smotherman, if you're going to call anybody on short notice, this is the perfect guy to call. He always shows up on short notice. He's staying in shape clearly at bantamweight. He's beaten some decent guys. I do think that he's worse than Ricky Simone, so I'll say that Ricky Simone will actually get this one done. I like Cameron Smotherman a lot, and I do think he's very decent. But stepping up on short notice, he fought really recently. Sari City, it's a close fight. Tough loss, and Sari City's very decent. And I do think Ricky Simone has regressed since he was at the top of his game, and he's got a win back against Javid Basharat, which is a very good opponent. I think he's similar level, maybe slightly worse than Sari City. So I really don't think that's a bad. I really think it's an impressive win from Ricky Simone after what he looked like. But the thing is, when I think of the Vinicius Oliveira fight, which is the one that a lot of people judged him off of recently because he looked really bad in that fight, Vinicius Oliveira is really good. So I really don't think there's much shame in that. And he got schooled by Vinicius Oliveira on the feet. He had his moments, and he showed power. I think Vinicius Oliveira is on a completely different level than Cameron Smotherman. I don't think Cameron Smotherman is going to be quite ready for Ricky Simone, and I think Ricky Simone gets this one done. I'm going to say just by decision. I don't see him sleeping Cameron Smotherman, and he's going to have a size disadvantage on Smotherman, but I think he gets this one done. I think that he's higher skill level than Smotherman. So, yep, that's it. Moving on, Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa, I believe is how you say his name. So, Cody Durden, Ochoa. Ochoa lost his last fight to Lonnie Kavanaugh, and I believe that was his debut. Or he might have been 1-0 in the UFC, something like that. He's still young, has a lot of talent, but the thing is, Cody Durden's been here, he's done that. And yeah, he lost his last fight, and he took a lot of damage in his last fight against Joshua Van, who's now fighting Brandon Royval in International Fight Week, and Justin Tafa's out, so that'll actually be on the main card. Thank the fucking lords. Now, this is where you would think that the older guy or the younger guy would get the benefit of the doubt against a guy like Cody Durden, but to be honest, I don't think Cody Durden's too old to lose this fight, and I think Cody Durden is near ranked level. So I'm actually going to pick Cody Durden and get this one done. I don't think Jose Ochoa's on the level of Cody Durden. I think Cody Durden will get this win. Ochoa might prove me wrong. I was thinking about picking him earlier today, but I think Cody Durden's better, and I think that he's going to get this one done. And I don't think he's too old to win against guys like this at flyweight anymore. I don't think Jose Ochoa is that good. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Cody Durden in this one by decision. Moving on. Malcolm Wallmaker versus Chris Matinho. Let's go! Chris Matinho's back, boys. Fucking legend. It says that his last fight was a KO loss. Last fight in the UFC was a KO loss. He's currently on a 5-fight win streak since his UFC appearance, so I think Chris Matinho is very decent. Now, the issue is I do think Malcolm Wallmaker is insane, but I don't see it being an early finish. I don't think Malcolm Wallmaker is going to have an early finish over Canetti or Canetti, or over Chris Matinho. God, I've had a terrible day since the Pacers fucking lost last night. But Matinho's chin is going to hold up. If we know anything about Chris Matinho, he's not going to get slept early, okay? Wallmaker's good. Simon has shown, he KO'd Simon, which is a massive, that's an impressive win. And he's coming back 2 months later. I love it. Chris Matinho's going to be a hard matchup. He's got momentum. And if we know anything about Chris Matinho, is that he's got a chin. And this, I think he's going to give Malcolm Wallmaker. I think Wallmaker will easily win this fight. But I think that it'll go into the third round, and it will make it far. I think it'll make it into the third round, and he might TKO him there. Maybe not. Maybe he does. And I think Wallmaker will show that he's a real prospect. But I think Matinho will show that he's not completely out of it. Now, why the fuck are you giving Matinho to the Wolves after this? But whatever. I'm just happy that he's back. I think third round TKO for Malcolm Wallmaker. Maybe decision. I don't think Matinho wins this one. I think Wallmaker does, but I think that Matinho's chin will hold up, as always. So that's what I've got for that one. Moving on, Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. Unk fight. I'm picking Michael Chiesa. Court McGee is 40. He's not fit enough to actually be fighting in the UFC. The only reason he won his last fight is because it was against Tim Means. Michael Chiesa, he beat Max Griffin. I think that's a much more impressive win. Neither are impressive wins, but that's more impressive. And I think Michael Chiesa will get this one done against Court McGee. I think he's just better than Court McGee, and he should beat Court McGee. So I'm going to say Michael Chiesa, and I'm going to say by boring-ass decision. Moving on. Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. These are the prelims, guys. We have Michael Chiesa on the prelims of a fight night. This is crazy. To today's UFC standards. So, pretty amazing. But yeah, Paul Craig Bellato. So, when this fight was originally supposed to happen, which I believe was was it the Canada card? No, it was an Apex Fight Night, right? I think it was that. Bellato had herpes. Had to fucking leave. I'm actually going to pick Rodolfo Bellato. That's who I picked in the first one as well. And I think Paul Craig is done. I don't like his move up to another weight class now. I think Bellato is dumb. And do I think that Bellato is not very good? Yes. But I do think that he's good enough to beat Paul Craig. And he is kind of a knockout artist on the feet in terms of like what is Bellato good at doing, and that's mostly what he's good at doing. So I'm actually going to pick Rodolfo Bellato in this one. I think he can get like these counter hooks away, and I could see him knocking out Paul Craig on the feet. And ultimately that would probably result in Paul Craig getting cut or potentially even retiring. If he loses this one, I could absolutely see that being the case. I think Bellato's young. I think Paul Craig's at the end of his career, and I think that Bo Nickal's win over Paul Craig is going to age poorly because I think that we're going to realize that Paul Craig is not the same fighter that he once was. So I'm going to pick Rodolfo Bellato in this one, and I'm going to say by KO, and I think we're going to see the retirement of Paul Craig today. So yeah, I'm going to pick Rodolfo Bellato by second round TKO. Moving on, Alonzo Menifield versus Umar Sy. Or Sai or whatever. I'm going to pick Umar Sy. He's 11-0, young, built like a freak. Alonzo Menifield, older. His fights are really weird to watch. He had the win over Johnny Walker in his last fight, which was really mid. And Menifield really doesn't impress me when he fights. He has power, but I feel like every time he gets punched, he's like wobbling. And I don't know. Menifield, he strikes me as a dummy. I mean, I'll never forget just watching the St. Louis card 2 years ago or last year or whatever when he just started sprinting at Carlos Ulberg and got KO'd. Like, I'll never forget that. And since then, I've just never been a believer in Alonzo Menifield. So I'm going to pick Umar Sy in this one. He hasn't fought in a while since the Paris card last year. His win was against a great opponent, and this is a big step up for him. But I really do think that he'll beat Alonzo Menifield. I think Menifield is not very good. And, I mean, his win over Johnny Walker, I believe this pushes Umar Sy into the rankings. We'll see if he can get it done. He's going to have a size advantage in terms of height over him. And I think he's going to do a better job implementing takedowns. And I think that he'll beat Alonzo Menifield in the wrestling. And I think that he'll get off enough ground and pound that he'll get the decision win. So that's what I'm going to say. Umar Sy, by decision, gets into the rankings. Hopefully he can get back on the Paris card later this fall. Moving on. Mansour Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage. The legend, UFC 300 legend, Cody Brundage. He won his last fight by KO over Julian Marquez. The legend, the great Julian Marquez. Mansour Abdul Malik. And they both fight somewhat recently. You know, Abdul fought on the Seattle card, and then he fought on the Apex 100 card a couple months before that. So he's stayed active. This is his third fight in the UFC since Contender Series last year. So I really like that for Mansour Abdul Malik. I hope he shows up in a little bit of better shape. I feel like he's a little too flabby for the division. Like, he's a big, strong dude. And I feel like he's in the right weight class because, I mean, he's got a ridiculous reach. He's got amazing athleticism. I just feel like he could be in a little bit better shape. And I feel like if he even cut down all the way to what he really could be, he could even make 170. And if this guy made 170, he would I don't know. It'd be crazy. I think he should stay at 185 so that he can stay this active and fight more often. I think he's strong enough for the division. But I hope he doesn't show up out of shape. Cody Brundage. I think Cody is terrible. I don't even know if he's UFC level. Julian Marquez isn't UFC level, so not at this point. Well, he is, because UFC level isn't even impressive anymore. So I'm going to say Mansour Abdul Malik gets his third win in the UFC against Cody Brundage. They're giving him a little bit of an easy path. You know, he fought a debutee in his last fight, also off the Contender Series, who a little more frail of a guy. Mansour is really strong, really athletic, And I think he's going to get this one done. He's won both of his fights by TKO. And I don't think it's going to be any different here. I think it's going to be ground and pound TKO over Cody Brundage in the second or third round. That's what I've got. So Mensur Abdulmalik gets this one done. Moving up, Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. Oh, guys, we're getting to the real interesting one here. Oof. Raoni Barcelos is coming off of his win against Peyton Tabbitt, where he wrestled him and showed a weakness in Tabbitt's game. Sorry. Yawning. Tabbitt actually just got announced to fight Felipe Lima up here soon on International Fight Week, which is going to be a great fight. And then they got Jacoby Smith versus Nico Price. So 2 nice prospects on the International Fight Week card. Thank God we needed it 2 weeks from now. They're having to fucking rush these guys onto the card, but whatever. It's been over a year since Cody fought. He was supposed to fight last November, pulled out last second. It was supposed to be against Miles Johns on the Apex 100 card. And then there were multiple times where I think he was going to fight again earlier in the year, but then he pushed it back to this later in the year, and he ended up saying June, and he's now back for UFC Atlanta. I obviously want Cody to win. I know we all want Cody to win. I think he's done. He's 33. I don't know, man. Fuck it. Raoni Barcelos is 38. His win over Peyton Tabbitt wasn't impressive. He showed off decent wrestling, but I think Cody Garbrandt's got better defensive wrestling than Peyton Tabbitt, to be brutally honest. Even though they both do not have good defensive wrestling, I think Cody Garbrandt's is better, and I think Cody Garbrandt will actually give a shit a little bit more, and I honestly think that he could chin Raoni Barcelos, who has shown to be occasionally chinny, and he's 38. So I'm going to pick Cody Garbrandt in this one. I'm manifesting it, guys. Please let me cope. I'm picking Cody Garbrandt by fucking KO. Please, Cody. I'm picking you. My God. I'm such a pathetic shit. Yeah, okay. I'm picking Cody just for funsies. I don't know. Moving on. Emin Shabazian versus Andre Petroski. Okay. This is an interesting one. So they both recently fought actually on the same card, so it was pretty easy to match these guys up with each other. Petroski is 7-1 in the UFC or whatever. Not against really the most impressive a performance. I mean, his last win was against Rodolfo Vieira. It's a decent win. An Edmund Shabazian win would be much more impressive. But would it? I mean, Edmund has shown, obviously, his amazing talent, but then he's also just shown his big blunders. But we've also seen Andre Petroski get knocked out by someone else's hip. So is Andre Petroski that much better? I really don't think so. I'm going to pick Edmund Shabazian. He's more dynamic, and Andre Petroski might stink the place up and get this win. He's boring, and he's really not that good. He just kind of wins with his wrestling, I guess. I think Edmund Shabazian is the better fighter, and I really hope he gets this win. His last win was against Dylan Budka. Dylan Budka's terrible, but it was by TKO. I'm just gonna hope that Edmund gets this one done as well because he's more exciting. So let's go Edmund. Even though Petroski will probably win here, but I'm gonna pick Edmund, and I'm gonna say by KO. It's either going to be that or Petroski wins by boring decision. So, we'll see. Moving on. Co-main event. Told you these were fast. Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. Miranda Maverick, 4-fight win streak. She won against Jamie Lynn Horth in her last fight. Her wins really aren't that impressive. And, she's the 11th or 12th ranked women's flyweight. And they want more names, at the top of flyweight. Miranda Maverick is decent. She's gotten a good win streak, and Rose Namajunas makes sense. Rose Namajunas is so much higher level than Miranda Maverick, and I think that we're going to see that specifically in the striking. I really think this might be a full striking match. And I think Rose is just much better on the feet than Miranda Maverick. Now, Miranda Maverick might go out there and prove me wrong. But I just think Rose Namajunas is a lot better. And I think wins over Rose Namajunas are very impressive. So let's really hope that Rose Namajunas wins, or else this fight just completely takes away from all of her credibility in terms of, well, Erin Blanchfield beat Rose Namajunas. That's a hell of a win, Amanda Ribas lost to Rose. That's not that big of a deal. Rose Namajunas is great. If she loses to Miranda Maverick, that changes that narrative a little bit. So I'm really hoping that Rose Namajunas gets this win, or else it's just going to make the UFC that much more confusing, and we're going to realize that Miranda Maverick is top level. So this is a true test for her. But then I also feel like Miranda Maverick is nowhere near the same level as an Erin Blanchfield or a Manon Fiorot and the people that Rose has lost to recently. So that I'm going to pick Rose Namajunas to get this one done over Miranda Maverick. Yeah, by decision. Moving on to the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. This is an awesome fight, guys. This is going to be fucking awesome. They made Buckley so much smaller than Usman on that UFC app. It's actually sad. Buckley's smaller, but he's not that much smaller. It looks really bad. Check it out on the app if you click on their matchup. It's a really hard fight to predict because there's a lot of different ways that this fight could go. And a lot of people are picking Usman. And I get it. Because the last time we saw him was less than 2 years ago. A year and a half ago? It's still a long time, but a little more than a year and a half ago. And he had the fight with Khamzat, which you could say he arguably won. I think Khamzat won that fight. But you could say Usman looked good. He didn't look good, but he looked decent against Khamzat. He outgritted Khamzat. But to be brutally honest, I think that says more about what level Khamzat was at that time, more than what that says about Usman. I don't think the Khamzat that we saw against Whitaker is the same Khamzat we saw against Usman. I think Khamzat was definitely much less healthy at that time in terms of just overall health, and I think that he's better now, and I think that's why he was able to waltz in against Whitaker. Obviously the whole teeth thing, but whatever. But a lot of people are picking Usman because of that performance, and because of, who he is, and rightfully so. Kamaru Usman's a legend. Now, he's not the greatest welterweight of all time, Dana White. Know your fucking sport. Why aren't we appreciating the greatness of George St. Pierre? Oh, it's because he wanted to ban drug testing and because he was really trying to push you guys on it. But you guys just can't stop dick riding John. And all the steroids and Brock and you just have to, and you can't really be too vocal about banning roids, because then in that lawsuit with Mark Hunt, but we're not going to talk all about that because we know that the UFC has no sort of grudge against their fighters for doing what's right. And you remember Dana White shitting on GSP for retiring after the fight with Johnny Hendricks, where he was begging them to let them drug test. And the drug tests were kind of skeptical for that Johnny Hendricks fight, where he was probably on the roids, if we're going to be brutally honest. And GSP retired, and Dana goes out there and starts ripping him live at the press conference. But then you ask him, about John now. Well, John, he's been holding on to the belt since November. He's only had one fight in the past, nearly 2.5 years. There's been an interim champion for a year and a half, Do you think it's fair to, lay into him? Well, I was a lot younger then, guys. Yeah, but then you still call Usman the greatest welterweight of all time because you still hold a grudge against GSP because, whatever. Dana literally went out on Usman's podcast that got posted this week and was like, glazing, but he's been saying this since Usman was had beaten Covington. He'd be like, he ran through death's row twice. Covington has not had that impressive of a career. And Jorge, I mean, Jorge's good. They're both great. They're both great wins. They're not trying to degrade Usman's career and his track record. I mean, he had the win against Tyron Woodley, and then he had the dominant win against Tyron Woodley, and then he had the win against Covington, which is one of the best fights that you could ever watch. Then he beats Jorge in a very close decision, and then on 3 days' notice, and then he beats Jorge again after beating Gilbert Burns, which he nearly got knocked out by Gilbert Burns, and then he beats him. He KO'd him. Good job. That's what champions do. Then he goes out and sleeps Jorge. Then he goes out and beats Covington in a really close fight. And then he loses to Leon. And then again, and loses to Hamzat. Maybe he's not the greatest welterweight of all time, guys. I think Usman gets glazed a little too much, to be brutally honest, and I really think he is great. He's the second greatest welterweight of all time, absolute legend of the sport, Hall of Famer. I think he's done. He's 38, his knees are shot, and he hasn't fought in a year and a half. He's been delaying his return because he's been waiting for the division to play out, and he wanted to wait for the right matchup, and Joaquin Buckley is the right matchup. I think Joaquin Buckley gets this one done by TKO. And I'm going to say in the... Actually, no. Buckley by decision. I think he gets this one done by decision and beats Kamaru Usman, gets that name on his resume, and fights a Sean Brady or Shavkat or maybe Bilal next. That's it. That's all I've got today. Wanted to make the video somewhat quick. And yeah, tune in. It's going to be a really good card tonight, so tune in. Thank you, everybody, for watching. That'll be it for me. Bye.